Okay, learning target 9. This isn't really a long learning target, but again, this gives you a chance to work on ticket problems and quiz corrections. So we'll do this today, and then we'll finish up 10 and 11 tomorrow. So learning target 9 is just about inverses. So tomorrow we're going to use inverse trig functions to solve for missing angle measures in right triangles. But today we're just going to talk about the concept of an inverse. I want you to understand that the inverse trig functions are called arc sine, arc cosine, and arc tangent. So if you hear me saying that, that's just the formal name. But we are going to be using the inverse on your calculator. So just be careful of that. Okay? So the first two questions say to evaluate and solve each equation if x is between 0 and 360. So the first one just says find x if cosine x equals 1/2. So we're looking for an angle measure where cosine is 1/2. So yes, you can do this in your calculator. So we'll end up with the inverse cosine of 1/2. And when I do that, again, making sure your calculator's in degree mode, we'll take inverse of 0.5, and we get 60 degrees. Awesome. Here's the problem. Think about your unit circle. On your unit circle, there are two places where cosine x equals 1/2. So on a quiz, and you give me 60, that is only going to get you half credit. So you want to start these using your calculator maybe, but you need to finish them using the unit circle. So here is the unit circle. And again, we were looking for where cosine x equals 1/2. So cosine is 1/2 at 60, but there is another place in the unit circle where it's also 1/2. So if you look around, cosine is 1/2 again at 300. So that is the other possible answer. You need to have both. Okay? Does that make sense? The ones I'll give you, I'll make sure on the unit circle so you can find those for me. So the next, tangent x equals negative square root of 3/3. So we need to find the inverse. And when we do that, again, we need to type this into the calculator. But there's probably going to be another answer. There's not always two answers, but this one will probably have another answer. So inverse tangent of negative square root of 3 divided by 3. And we get negative 30. Now, the problem is x has to be between 0 and 360. So negative 30 isn't going to be a proper answer. But we do know how to find coterminal angles. So if we add 360, we get a 330 degree angle. Well, not 333. 330. So that's our first, oh my gosh, I did it again. So that is our first angle measure. Now we're going to go to the unit circle. We're looking for where tangent is negative square root of 3/3. We know the first one's at 330. Remember, tangent is found by taking y over x or sine over cosine. So we're using 330. That means we took negative 1/2 divided by the square root of 3/2. So I need to find another place in the unit circle where I would be dividing by the square root of 3/2 and that there's one negative. If you look around the unit circle, this won't work because there's two negatives. This won't work because there's two positives. So it must be in the second quadrant. And so here's the same coordinate with the negative and the x. So the correct answer is 150. So here my two answers were 330 and 150 degrees. Okay? So those you'll need to start out using your calculator and finish using the unit circle. Make sure you understand there may be more than one solution. Now, on the last two, it says to evaluate each expression, assume that all angles are in quadrant 1. So this time there's no equal sign or anything. It's not solving an equation. We're just solving or evaluating the expression. Well, the first one's easy. It says to find sine of the inverse sine. Well, sine and inverse sine are supposed to cancel each other out. That's the whole point. So in this case, the answer is just the square root of 3 over 2. But over here, it says to find tangent for the inverse. So follow me here. Just like up here, we started off with an equation, then I took the inverse, right? So here I have the inverse that used to be an equation. So if I undid this, it used to say cosine x equals 3/5, right? If I had taken the inverse, then I would get what we have in the parentheses. Well, if cosine x equals 3/5, then I can draw a right triangle, and I can find tangent if everything's in quadrant 1. So I draw my right triangle looking at this angle right here at the origin. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so the adjacent side must be 3, and the hypotenuse must be 5. So I'm missing this side, and either I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem or know it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So now if I want tangent, I'm looking for opposite over adjacent. And so opposite is 4, and adjacent is 3, so the answer is 4/3. So we just had to work backwards a little bit so we could draw our triangle. Let me make up another one that you can't just type into the calculator. Let's find cotangent of the inverse sine of 6 over 11. Okay? So again, this expression right here used to be sine x equals 6 over 11. It was an equation before they took the inverse. So we make it an equation again. Everything's in the first quadrant is what they're telling me. So looking here, sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So opposite would be 6, hypotenuse would be 11. But now I'm missing the adjacent side, which I need to have to find cotangent. So we're going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem. So I have 6 squared plus x squared equals 11 squared. So that's 36 plus x squared equals 121. So let's go ahead and to get 85. I don't know if that will simplify, and even if it is, it doesn't really matter right now. Remember, we don't have to worry about simplifying radicals, but we do need to make sure things are rationalized. So we get 85, and then we would take the square root. I'm ahead of myself over here. So to find cotangent. Cotangent, well, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So cotangent is adjacent over opposite. So the adjacent side is the square root of 85. The opposite side is 6. You couldn't have gotten that in your calculator in fraction form. You wouldn't have gotten an exact answer. You'd have decimals. So you have to understand, you just take what's in the parentheses. You think about what it would have been as an equation, and then you set up your triangle like we did in Learning Target 7. Okay? That is Learning Target 9. So you can work on Learning Target 9 assignment, or you can work on quiz corrections. I'm available if you need help.